Hey, Dr. Joe here. Happy Saturday. So excited to share some information with you today. And if you're thinking to yourself, it's Saturday, I don't want to hear about math. I was told there would be no math. Today we're going to talk about math. All right. And it's actually pretty cool stuff. So saw this paper earlier today. And have you ever seen, or do you know about when you see children that are a little bit uncoordinated? Right. So you're looking at your kid run around and compared to other kids, his or her age, they're maybe a little more clumsy, breaking more stuff at the house, kind of like a bull in a china shop situation, or constantly falling, and or if they're a little bit younger and they're crawling and they're doing the butt scoot instead of crawling, or they're just letting one leg kind of lag behind. Those are all some signs that they may have a little bit of a cerebellar issue. The cerebellum is a part of the brain back here that traditionally is thought to coordinate movement. We've talked in other videos about how the cerebellum does coordinate movement, but we've also talked about how movement is the foundation of healthy development of our brains growing up. So it's really important that we get the right stimulus, we move around a bunch, but also the cerebellum knows what to do with that movement. And so what this paper talks about is how the cerebellum actually is the origin of mathematics. Okay. So if your child is struggling with math and your child is a little imbalanced, maybe they're double jointed, maybe they had some of those crawling things that we talked about before, dragging one leg or doing the butt scoot, or they seem to drop everything or fall a lot, then it might be that their math issue may not be they need hours of tutoring. Okay. What they need is somebody to get their cerebellum online. And when their cerebellum starts working properly, then the math capacity actually would develop. So this is a concept that is a really important concept in developmental issues as it relate to learning issues. And what I see a lot in practice, and also just observing what's going out there and with children that are having issues learning, is that some children, the reason that they're not able to keep up with their peers isn't because they aren't trying hard enough or they need way more time. The reason that they need way more time is because the part of the brain that's supposed to process that particular academic skill set is not developed. So imagine taking a 4-year-old and putting them in a car and telling them to drive. They do not have the capacity to do that. Even if you gave them little stilts to control the pedals, right? And you give them a booster seat so they could see the road and put their hands on the wheel. They just don't have the capacity to coordinate that movement, right? Well, think of the cerebellum as more of not just coordinating movement, but coordinating thought. And so this paper talks about that. And it's a pretty wordy paper. It's definitely a academic type paper, but the title pretty much tells us all of it. And this is a study done in 2017. Now, how do you actually measure the cerebellum other than making observations about coordination? And so in an adult, you do that by, let's say like I was working with a young adult or something that was struggling with math. One of the things we want to know is how's their cerebellum doing, right? So think of a roadside test, right? So a law enforcement officer pulled somebody over. They're trying to determine if they're driving impaired. They'll have them come out of the car and they'll do things like finger to nose, eyes open, eyes closed, like that. Okay, they'll have them do things. They don't really do this as much, but this is another cerebellar test called dystatokinesia. There's other aspects of the body that contribute to this, but it does help us evaluate the cerebellum. They'll have them close their eyes and see if they fall over with their feet together. They'll have them walk in a line. Okay, those are all things that are testing the cerebellum. And the reason they do those tests is because the cerebellum is really impaired by alcohol. Alcohol is toxic to that area. They might look in the eyes with a flashlight, look at their pupils, and then see what they're doing, being able to pursue their finger. And those are all things that we do in our office to evaluate the cerebellum too. Now, one concept that we are going to start talking about a lot on this page is the idea of milestones and development, and how everything optimally goes in a specific sequence, and we can use an exam and we can use understanding of milestones to determine where a child is. Okay, so we know the cerebellum is involved in movement, and we know that posture is a constant tone of our body. Okay, and we know that posture is a combination of three major systems: the visual system, our balance mechanism in our inner ear, and then our muscles, ligaments, and tendons all interfacing. And our brain also directs through our spinal cord how posture is controlled, okay, by those three systems interfacing. So, well, yeah, we know hearing it has a relationship in the cerebellum, but those are the three primary systems, right? So if we see a child that has a lack of postural control and a lack of coordination of movement, and we see that they have a issue with math, then those two things could be linked. And instead of going to a tutor and spending hours and hours and hours studying with a complete lack of capacity to process that information, a model that actually accesses the network, brings it online, and then includes tutoring to get them caught up, I believe is a nice way to help this child get back on track and get their math going and actually enjoying their academic studies instead of dreading going to school and getting in trouble because they don't like the subject. So that's just a little bit about the cerebellum and math. Hopefully this is helpful, and I look forward to the next video. Take care.